Hey folks, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of Yoml. This is the year of magical learning. We are on a very exciting, I guess, part. I mean, this part for me is this is a one of our top five books. This is the Happiness Hypothesis book, but this is the third installment of five. So this is part 3 of 5, reflection 222.
Yeah, excited for this one. So it's another fun happiness hypothesis reflection. So if you didn't haven't tuned in for the other two, happiness hypothesis is a book about 10 great ideas. Each chapter is an attempt to savor one idea that's been discovered by several of the world's civilization to illuminate the path of human flourishing and happiness, philosophical wisdom on how to find happiness and things like that. So it goes through 10 different ideas of maybe a path toward happiness, and then it comes to a conclusion of a happiness hypothesis at the end of it, by the author, who is Jonathan Haidt, and he's a psychologist, like a social psychologist, I think, for a professor at UVA, University of Virginia. He's a really great writer. Another great book that we did with him is The Righteous Mind, which will come up in the future. Or do we already do that? I think we already did that. But anyway, so this reflection is part 3, and it's titled "Let Your Elephant Be an Elephant." Let your elephant be an elephant. The art of effort without effort. So I thought I would do, like, for whatever weird reason, as we've talked about with the whole elephant and the rider, right? Mm-hmm. Just you know what that is, but I'm just explaining for everybody else. The elephant is your unconscious, your adaptive unconscious. Like, just does what it does. Like, it's been there for forever, and it is your beaver must am. It is just your uncontrolled actions of how your body works. The rider, the little rider that sits on top of little person that sits on top of that elephant, is like your thinking slow brain, your rational mind, your the one that can maybe take a little bit more time, take a little bit more input in, and slowly but surely can make tiny tweaks to your adaptive unconscious, your elephant, and get them to go down that road over time if they're good, right? But oftentimes these two are at conflict, especially when you are doing your art. You're in your flow state, right? They both have a time and a place, and this was a fun little exercise that I went through of me playing a tennis match where my elephant and my rider are, and I'm an arbitrator in between the two of them. This is what happens to me almost every single tennis match. So I thought it'd be a fun, a little experiment. So stage 1 of my tennis matches are, I started off and I just say, just relax. I'm like, I tell my elephant, like, just do your thing. We're out here to have fun. Like, there's no place I'd rather be than on this tennis court with the sun smiling, and out here with Amelia and just having a good time, and it's tennis. I love this. This is I can challenge myself. I can express my values, the ultimate expression of my personal values, and I'm like, hey, let's just relax, smile, have fun, have a good time, and we'll rock and roll. So I started out like that. Usually, almost every match, I let my elephant just kind of be free a little bit and do its thing, and then every single time I hit stage 2, where get maybe like 3 or 4 games into it, and all of a sudden my little rider pops up and he's like, "Are you gonna do something?" Like, what are you doing, man? But it's about this time in the match when it's they, like, the rider wakes up, and it's when I get pushed to in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the score, a tight situation, the sun's in my eyes, the shadows are playing games with me on the court or whatever, or the wind's blowing or whatever. I get a bad line call from my opponent. Like, it doesn't matter. At some point in time, my game plan that I started off with of, like, just relax, elephant, like, let your elephant be your elephant. I tell my rider, take the day off, like, it doesn't matter. It always happens like about, I don't know, a handful of games into the match where it's like, we can't just sit around doing nothing, man. Like, get in the game, and I'm like, I'm like yelling at my elephant, all right, like let's go harder, let's push, like, let's focus, let's get in it, so I try a little harder, and inevitably, like, I start going a little harder, and then the errors start mounting more and more and more. I keep telling my elephant, go harder, push harder, swing harder, run faster, be more focused, like, and then after each point, I'm, my rider's yelling at my elephant, and I'm just sitting back here going, come on, guys, like, what the fuck? Like, let's get her, like, we're not even having any fun. I'm frustrated, the rider's frustrated, my elephant's frustrated, and this is about this time of every match. Then you hit this sucks stage 3, right? Where it's just like, we look up, it's about maybe the end of the first set, maybe get into the second set, and you're like, this sucks. I hate being out here right now. I'm tired, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm playing like crap, and you're like, something's just gotta change, right? And that's when I step in as an arbitrator between my elephant and my rider, and I'm like, okay, guys, remember why we're here. Focus on your values, just have fun, relax, smile. It doesn't matter. No one cares about the outcomes. And my rider is like, okay, fine, I'll go chill out. And the elephant's like, okay, all right, thanks for freeing me up. And then all of a sudden, things start to get a little bit better. And then, then I'm free flowing, I'm playing, I'm just grooving, I'm having a good time. I'm joking with my opponent as we're going over the crossover, we're talking about family life, whatever, I'm hitting winners, like things are going good. And then all of a sudden, this is when stage 4 or stage 5 happens, where I forgot to change that. Stage 5 happens where it's like the rider hops in and he goes, "Way to go, team! We're back in a groove. Great work." And the elephant and I look at each other and we go, "The fuck's did you say?" Yeah, we're like, "What do you mean we're in a groove?" And we make an error too. And he's like, "Hey, guys! I was just saying you're doing great. Just keep it up. Just keep doing what you're doing." And we're like, "What were we even doing?" I don't even know. Like, what the fuck? And then now my rider comes back in. Now the elephant starts to make a little bit more errors, and now I'm going, what's this guy talking about? And then all of a sudden, it slowly spirals downhill again, and before you know it, we're all angry and yelling at each other again, right? Then we get to our dramatic conclusion. Stage 6 is what it should be. So at this point in the match, this is like flip a fucking coin. Like, it's either the elephant is going to finish the match or the rider is going to finish the match. But either way, like, I don't have any control anymore. I can't stop the fighting anymore. Like, I can't control it. Like, it's either I'm going to cruise through and it's going to feel great and we're just going to coast into the finish line, or I'm going to be yelling and screaming and like, like dragging my elephant along the way, and really frustrated and angry, or whatever. A lot of emotions are going to be flown out of me where I'm just yelling at myself, basically. You're like, this is about every single match, right? So the moral of the story is the rider cares about outcomes. The elephant never does. Like, he doesn't, have you ever heard the saying, he who cares the least most wins, usually? Well, that's what elephants are. They don't give a shit about the outcome. They're just there to do what they do, and they just want to be left alone. They just want to be free to go do their marvelous elephantine, right? So for me, that is the art of effort without effort. And when my elephant is in control of my meaningful work performance, I'm never happier, never having more fun. I never produce better results. And when my rider decides to take control, it's a shit show. It's a mess. It's always a mess. It's like, it's just chaos, right? So I sum this one up to say, don't get me wrong, there's a place for both. Practice time is the rider's time. You can yell at me all day long, rider. You can take control of every practice, because we're working on skills, we're trying new things, we're out there. But when it's fucking game time, let the elephant just be a fucking elephant. That is it. That's the reflection. Love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, it's entertaining that you go through the stages, and I think it's remind me a bunch of a lot of these movies always have this conflict between I mean, it sounds like a coach and a player, right?
It is.
The coach say, hey, more like a backseat driver kind of coach, right?
Right.
When you're in the ring and you're fighting for your life, he said, do the back kick, do the back kick.
Yeah, no, it's like yelling on the sidelines, do better. You're like, what are you talking about? I'm trying my best. Like,
I mean, the only thing that kind of comes to my head is that you basically distracting your player
Totally.
by yelling at him while he's in performance, in combat, in competition. All you do is you are distracting him so he can look at you, so he can get his head whacked by the other guy.
Totally. I mean, it's a mind fuck. I mean, like, you do not want to be coached while you're performing. Like, it doesn't. I mean,
want to be coached, you do not want to be told how to drive while you're
while you're
driving.
driving. Right. Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Like
it's called backseat driver. For one, it makes the performance worse, and second, it irritates the hell out of the driver.
it's awful. Like and then everybody gets confused too. Like I mean the funniest part about that whole entire thing is when like the backseat right driver is just like, all right, fine, I'm just gonna chill and listen to my music, and then you're
And
cruising
then
along
he,
even
yep,
and then all of a sudden they wake up and they're like, oh man, you guys have been driving great for the past hour and a half.
keep
Like
doing it, keep doing
yeah, yeah,
it.
yeah. You know what? Hey, you might want to, watch out for like, or what? Make sure you take in all the sun around you. It's such a beautiful day, and you're like, you're like,
Here it goes again.
it's like, just shut the fuck up. Like, let me drive, bitch. Like,
Yes.
it's but it's well, yeah. All right. Anyway, keep going. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, in the beginning of the podcast, to me, based on your reflection, I understood right away, and this is one of my core, I guess, principle in terms of how I live my life, right? And I think this is something people need to also understand. Like I said, it's one. Have you heard of one of the famous quote that Bruce Lee said? Don't think, feel,
Right.
right? It's basically the same thing because you don't want to think when you're in fight. You got to
Right.
you got to trust your training, trust in your training. Same thing with everything else. You can say, "Hey, I'm a race car driver,"
Mhm.
right? You gotta trust your instinct. You do not want to fidget with the formula while you're driving 200 miles an hour because
Right.
that is dangerous. So that's the thing is, there is always a place and time for each uh, part of the players to play. I mean, for me, I think of the elephant as the master swordsman,
Mhm.
but he's blind. So there's a little kid that's sitting on his neck, but he can see, right? And
Right.
so you have to prep the master swordsman. Okay, this is a view. I see the guy over here. You see the guy over there. He has this sword, has that sword. But let the swordsman fight. Once you describe to him and tell him exactly where things are, right? You don't want to tell him, this guy's coming, whatever. He can feel it. He's a master swordsman. The
Right.
elephant, it is the super power of our brain. I mean, it
Mhm.
is the
It's
most,
incredible. It's really
is
it's
it,
incredible. Like you could not do any of the stuff that I was just talking about on a tennis court at all. If I was actually if I was letting my rider like, it control my actions, like literally, I mean, I wouldn't be able to probably even run 5 steps and hit a ball at the same time. Like the mechanics of me being able to hit a ball as hard as I hit a ball on the run to a specific spot on the other side of the court with certain types of spin, certain types of whatever. There's no fucking way that I could have ever thought through all that. It's like when I'm learning crochet right now. Like, I mean, every single thing I have to think about, I'm like, okay, this goes here, this does this, this does this, this does this, do go here, this goes this. I'm sure when you're getting really good at crochet, it's just you could probably just be watching
I
TV and
mean,
like,
same thing with walking. I mean, walking involves like hundreds of thousands of different parts of muscles coordinating in the exact
right.
same
Mhm.
position and same pattern for you to be able to walk. You and I walk like it's effortless.
Right.
So you have to understand. Like, remember, I told you the story about if you are standing on some kind of like step ladder and you kind of reach something on the top, and suddenly a glass fell down and you were able to catch it,
Right.
right? Before you even realize that it's falling down, right? So the thing is, if your elephant is able to detect that something's falling down, it
It
can
just catches it.
it but the thing is the effort of catching it require is to recognize it, detect the speed where it is falling,
Right.
coordinate all the muscle, and exert all the muscle to catch it, right? Before the rider even get notified.
Right.
So
Exactly. Oh, for sure.
that's
Yeah.
how good the elephant is. That's how good our subconscious is,
Right.
right? And so that's what I'm saying is because it is so good, you should not be the one doing the performance because
ever.
there's certain things that you have that it don't have. For example, like I say, it does not see. It is blind, but it knows. It can take in the stimuli from your, the speed of many things, your touch, whatever, the hearing, balance, everything else that it can see, it can feel it, and it can perform accurately. Accurately, I mean, it can catch something while falling, and it knows where it is, right? In terms of the three-dimensional, you talked about, the height, the 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 plane of the atmosphere, or the room environment where it is. So there are multiple dimensions that it has to calculate to be able to contact the hand with the cup. And so even for that effort alone, it is require a tremendous amount of coordinations. But it can do that in less than a split of a second.
Right.
And
But
that's
here's the thing though, is the elephant can get better. The elephant can get faster. Like I just finished this book today. It's called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't Have you ever heard of that book before?
Mhm.
It's called have you read that one by any chance?
No, not yet.
So this is actually like a pre-reflection for my reflection to come tomorrow a little bit, because I've already been thinking about this all day long. But it's like that book's all about your elephant. Like the initial like 2 seconds, it's called Blink for a reason, right? Because it's about the power of thinking without thinking, right? It's basically a book about your elephant and the power of the elephant and how we can just magically understand certain things. And actually, he was talking about a couple things in this book that I want to share because it's very on par with this particular reflection in general. One is this tennis savant. He's like a tennis coach / former tennis player. He could accurately predict. He could sit there in a tennis court and he will watch tennis players serving. And these are professional servers, mind you. They don't double fault very often, right? Like maybe you double fault like in a 3-set match, like I don't know, 4 or 5 times, if you're a professional tennis player, and they're serving the ball incredibly hard, incredibly fast, with a lot of accuracy, a lot of spin. I mean, they're doing a lot of really, really technical things with their serves. These are not easy serves they're hitting, but they're so good at them that they can do it without even thinking, right? Well,
Mhm.
this guy is able to this coach. He's a coach. He's able to sit in the stands and he literally can accurately predict every single time somebody's going to double fault while he's live. He's like, he'll watch them and he'll just go, oh, they're going to double fault right now. Like he can see and sense and
Mhm.
feel like certain things. And 14 out of 15 times they tracked him one time. Like he got 14 out of 15 double faults that happened in that particular match for both players, and he's like, I don't know how I do it. And then it got into they went into a long discussion around how he thinks that he ultimately did it. But they also started then talking about actually Andre Agassi in this particular thing. And this guy did this everybody always said Andre Agassi kind of transformed ground strokes in tennis. Before he started playing the way that he played, he hit with just so much more power and spin than everybody else. I mean, he took ground strokes to another level, and he just hit it so hard and just so much power, and so much spin too. And it used to be a serve and volley game before Agassi came along, and he like literally catapulted it to like the power ground stroke baseline game that it is today. Like the Roger Federers and Nadals and Djokovic's, like they're all stemming from Agassi's initial pivot of the game to stay at the baseline, hit really hard, powerful ground strokes, and grind people out, from the baseline. So they were analyzing Andre Agassi's ground strokes, and everybody's like, "Oh, Andre's really wristy," meaning like he when he comes over the ball, he hits his wrist turns dramatically. And this guy was like, "That's not true at all." Like he was like, I frame by frame, he went and evaluated Andre Agassi's serve or swing, and he's like, his wrist never ever moves until like 3 frames after he's hit the ball. Like, I mean, it has nothing to do with him hitting the ball and turning his wrist at the same time. Same thing with his backhand. He was like, most of his powers. Anyway, he like went frame by frame, breaking this whole entire thing down. And this is like the funny thing about like all these if you were to ask my rider how my elephant does what my elephant does, in like a tennis match or anything, like writing, or where the conversation comes from, or this conversation, right? Like if you were to ask, like, where does this flow come from, of us having this dialogue, I would say I don't know. Like, and I really don't know the answer. I don't know how I do what I do. I don't know how you beaver either. I don't know how I beaver, like, oftentimes. But this is when it gets really interesting, is if you ever ask Michael Jordan to, like, break down how does Michael Jordan do Michael Jordan, he can't. Like, I mean, he can't tell you this. If you ask Agassi how he becomes Agassi, he can't tell you this. Now, there are coaches out there that get really, really good and can break down a lot of understanding of things, where they can slowly but surely start to really break down things, and they can start to help you to refine and train and slow down your blink time, I guess. Or sorry, extend your blink time. So meaning you can make your elephant time longer, for the elephant, give the elephant more time to be its elephant, right? That's all that you can really do as a writer, in my opinion, is figure out ways to give your elephant, when it's being its elephantness, just a little bit longer amount of time to be its elephantness, right? Like, if you could do that, everything slows down, because you hear this from, like, drivers and, like, race cars and whatever, and you hear this from basketball players when they're in the zone. They're like, the basketball goal looks like it's 500 feet big. It's like an ocean you could throw it into. Or if I'm a driver, they're like in literally tunnel vision. Sometimes when I'm playing tennis, I, like, literally can't even. There's some times when I'm playing where I'm just like, I don't even know that I'm on the court sometimes, and I look up and the game's over or something like that, and I'm like, oh, that was a good game, and, like, this is when the writer then pops back in. It's like, well done, and you're like, what the fuck, like, um, but anyway, what I was getting at is my ultimate point here is, like, the best thing you can do as a writer is give your elephant just a little bit more time, like, and you do that through practice and repetition of giving them the same scenario over and over and over and over and over and over again, where your elephant gets just a little bit more time to react and understand the scenario, and just a little bit more time to be its elephantness, right? And then in that moment, that little bit extra time then becomes massive, right? When you're in the flow state, but the only way that you can ever get there is if your writer, your little coach, that knows what it's doing, can recognize what's going on, and then can give your elephant just a little bit more time in practice. That's my theory, personally. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're talking about. I mean, like, and I agree completely with what you said, and that's why I think it's a little bit harder to explain uh how I'm really impressed with the subconscious, because, like I told you before, I mean, for me personally, I think that our brains is 1,000 times more powerful than the supercomputer we have today. Like, when talking about supercomputer, and if
For
anybody
sure.
knows about supercomputer, I mean, whatever you have, I mean, these are like a zillion times more powerful than the computer you have to play games. Okay, this is the supercomputer that we have, that Google and that we build in the United States and also in China. I mean, these computers are supercomputer, and they are basically span of several buildings of this one computer. And our brains, to me, it is faster than that. And so, I mean, when you have the ability to train your brains, right? It has a capacity to hold any of that. So that's what I'm saying is, like the likes of Andre Agassi and the world class of anything. These guys, because they have trained the elephant, that they are becoming so good at it, that, and even at that stage, to me, it is barely scratching the surface of its usage of the subconsciousness, in my
Oh yeah,
opinion,
for
right?
sure.
And so that's what I'm saying is, if you can properly train your subconsciousness, your elephant, it can do things that is gonna be like 100 times, 1,000 times impressive than you are impressed right now with what you can do. And that's why I said a lot of people who can do so incredible things and can't explain it, because you say, well, how does that person does it? Because you see somebody say, hey, I can tell he ain't gonna double fall. Well, based on a certain pattern, a certain whatever that this the elephant, the subconscious, get
Right.
cues from. It said, well, basically, I've seen it so many times, it's gonna double fall. You see a kid, like, can juggle three Rubik's cube in juggle while solving it in the air by having his finger.
Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah, in under 6 minutes.
Wow.
Under right, and with three cube, he can solve the cube without he just tossing it like solving as he goes. So basically,
It's just
he is
finger muscle
actually
memory.
exactly. So that's require what your subconscious
Right.
to control all of the muscle in that guy in that kid's hand to be able to toss each of this cube in
That's
the
intense.
right position to knock to knock the other cube to rotate. Right.
Right.
To me, that's an incredible feat alone. But to do
Yeah,
that while juggling, but also to solve the puzzle. To me,
that's
like
insane.
I can't even
That's
solve the
insane.
puzzle. But the thing is, you think about that, is because this kid has been able to train his subconscious, to train his elephant. Eventually, he can do that. And to me, that is not impossible. So whatever
Right.
you want to do, right? You can be a world class at anything as long as you properly train your elephant and let the elephant be the elephant. So I am more than 100% agree with what you said. Let the elephant be the elephant. You never ever want to get in the way. When I'm in the fight, I'm going to trust my instinct. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say, okay, I'm going to try this punch. I'm going to try this hook. Well, you got to do what you got to do. If you get beat up just because your
Yeah.
elephant
Right.
is not properly trained, so you got that's why I think it is very key for any young audience out there. If you want to be artful and masterful at anything, train your elephant and let it be an elephant when it's in action.
When it's performing. Right. Right.
Never ever trying to pull the rein while he's doing his thing. You look like I said, you look at the race car drivers. If you think about, but this guy basically they can drive and they're driving 200 miles an hour, and to them it's normal speed. It's like okay,
Right.
it's normal. It's
Right.
not fast at all,
Right.
and they can weave through all of the cars in front of them, behind them, right, with ease. We can't do it because when the moment you jerk something, your car basically flip because of how fast you're going. You know
Right.
what I mean? But these guys are able to control the car
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean,
so easily. And you think about it, that requires training. And if you think you can pull the rein while you're driving 200 miles an hour, what do you think is going to happen to you and to the car? It's going to have a disaster, outcome. So that's why
right.
I'm saying is, we have that ability. Our subconscious has that ability. You say, well, people can say, well, what about like I mean we don't even have to go to that extreme, but I'm just giving you a some evidence that these things do exist, and we just need to understand that our subconscious, it has so much capacity that is being unused. And
Right.
so we're talking about like listening to audible books, right? We can say, well, I can listen to 1x.
Yeah,
What
right.
happened
Yeah.
if you increase to 2x? When you increase 2x, right? 1x,
Yeah.
right? Once you get used to a 2x speed, when you listen to 1x, everything is slow to you. I mean, so
Right.
basically your subconscious is able to um, you know balance or equilibrium out its pace. Whatever the pace you set it, so whatever is normal to it becomes slow. This
Right.
so that's the thing is you can be basically a master at any art that you want if you let your conscious be trained properly when it is time for it to train, and you let it perform the action when it's performing the action. To me, this is the best combination of any sub rider and elephant that I see. And like I said, I'm super interested in how the subconscious works for many years. And this book basically is kind of like illustrate the things that I wasn't able to express before because I didn't
You
have
should
the psychology and the word that Jonathan Haidt has. So basically, he basically said exactly what I had in mind.
you should read this, by the way. I mean, if you're it was good. It was literally about all about exactly what you were just talking about, you know. I mean, it was good. I it Malcolm Gladwell is such a good writer. Like it I mean, it I read this book in a day, 2 days. And actually, it was because the only reason I started that book is I just finished Talking to Strangers on Thursday and Friday. I finished that one in 2 days, and I was like, man, Malcolm Gladwell is so good. I was like, all right, I'll do another one. Like I mean, it's just he just does such a good job of telling a story. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it I don't
But the thing is, I want to emphasize the importance of understanding this, because this is going to give you a huge advantage.
it's everything. I mean, it really is. Like you know what I was thinking about when you were talking. I talk fast, right? Like, you know, I mean, I think you know that. You've known me long enough to know I talk fast. I don't know if I started talking like this and
I go to
said,
bed. I go to bed right now.
well, true. What I'm thinking about is how blah 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 would do blah blah blah. Like, I actually just lost my own train of thought.
Yes.
I've gotten really good at, you know, going fast, and when I talk fast, like the ideas come fast. Like, you know, it's like things just pull in from all over the place, you know, when I'm talking to you, and it comes to me as I'm talking. If I'm thinking about go slow in my speech, I'm
You're
not
distracted.
thinking of I'm like blocking my own brain, you know.
Right.
You know, I can't do it. Like, I have my elephant goes fast, you know, and I talk fast and I think fast. Whenever I have to give a presentation and people are like, slow down, it is a disaster, because
Yes.
I mean, it is a fucking disaster. As a matter of fact, like, this is why I hate giving uh presentations with a slide deck, you know, to go through, because it makes me go so much slower. If you just said talk through it and like, you know, have a conversation with somebody, like I would destroy, you know, sales presentations with people. I oftentimes am like, I don't even want this deck. I don't want to hear. I don't want it anywhere near me, because like I can't flow when I'm being artificially stopped by a slide deck, you know, because I can't. The associations just don't come to me as fast. My recognition of what's going on and what I'm saying in the moment doesn't happen as fast. The recognition around the goal of the conversation and going, oh yeah, remember, Chris, like, what were we here to even talk about anyway, and tie this back to this, you know, like, I just can't do it when I'm fucking trying to stare
Yeah,
at a,
you're just
you
sticking with
know,
your elephant.
exactly. I
I
mean,
mean, to put it bluntly, you're sticking with your elephant. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You gotta be who you want, who you gotta be. You
right.
can't just say, well, that's what I'm saying is, people say, hey, slow down. Well, when I don't want to slow down, I can't.
Yeah,
That's not me. So in order for me to slow down, you might as well just stop the presentation. There's no point, because I'm
right.
not
I
gonna say
agree.
anything that you want to hear anyway. You know what I mean? Because there are certain things that there was a certain way that I say things, a certain way that I express things. People need to they either can see, can hear, and can understand, or they don't. I mean, if I'm speaking Beaver, right?
Right.
Beaver can understand, but ants can't. So I mean, I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm gonna figure out how to speak ants, right? Who cares? I don't care. That that's why I'm saying is a lot of people who say to slow down. I say I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna say the way I said. You want to ask a
Right. That's
question, you can ask later, and I'll explain to you
I'll
again and
do it
again
again.
and
Yeah,
again,
right.
and that's fine. But I'm not gonna slow down because you can't get it, right?
Right.
You can't get it. It's not my fault. You lack the foundation of understanding this idea, this concept, right? That missing information, it is up to you to go back and say, hey, I'm missing this piece. Can you give me this piece? Right?
Exactly.
I'm more than happy to give you that piece that you're missing, but I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to give you everything, right? I'm going to give you the basic of the basic. I mean, I'm going to bore the other people to death. Why would I want to do that? And I can't stop just because, you know, this is who I'm used to. It is how I used to speak. And now you tell me to speak in a different way that I'm not used to. I'm not letting my elephant be my elephant. I mean, to
Right.
me, any occasion it's become a disaster. And even if it's not a disaster, it's a level down from what it should be, right? Regardless of
Exactly.
how good you're at, because if you're really good and you if you're excellent, then you're gonna be down to good level. You're not gonna be excellent anymore, just because you're not doing what you're good at. And
Yeah,
so that's the
it's giving me
thing.
a
That's
panic attack just thinking about slowing down, as I'm trying to slow down my own inner listening of your your words you're saying, and it's like making me go, what? I'm literally struggling to focus on when I just sit back and listen, I just listen, and and it's like, like you said, like an audiobook, it it goes fast, and I can process it quickly. It's why I like audiobooks. I can process audio fast. Like, I mean, I like processing audio fast. My brain thinks in audio fast, and that's how it comes back out of myself. Like, if you try to slow it down, it fucks me up. Like, I mean, it really does fuck me up. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, one of the reasons why I personally feel like, whenever I'm engaging about something that I want to talk about, my energy levels are something that keeps people engaged in a conversation when I'm talking about something that I care about. Like when it's something that I really am passionate about, I guess. I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but
I think that's universal to everybody. I mean, if you're not excited about something, how can you get somebody else excited? I mean, that's.
But this is what I'm saying is that I don't think about be excited, Chris. Like, I just am excited. Like, I mean, I'm saying this is what I'm saying.
Because the thing is, I can pretend to be excited, but you can tell.
Exactly. This is what I'm getting at, is like, I'm saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but you tell me. I'm asking you a question. Like, is my energy levels something that draws you in whenever I'm talking about a topic that I have a lot of energy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
and like I said, that's almost everybody, not just you, but absolutely you're the reason why the conversation is fun. Because if I can talk to somebody who doesn't have the energy, then
It's
that's,
why do you
I
want to
mean,
talk to them?
it's gonna stop. I mean,
Right.
so it's also the thing is, when I want to talk to somebody, I want that person to talk to me naturally. I don't want them to regurgitate a prepared speech, because for
Right.
me, for whatever reason, it disengaged me. I don't know about you, but it disengaged me. I just
Oh, for sure.
stopped listening.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to all the speeches. Like, I don't even listen to I have a dream speech. Okay. Just
Right.
because that guy doesn't stop, he doesn't stutter, he doesn't go, right? To me, it's fine. Express
Right.
yourself in the way you're supposed to express yourself. It looks natural. It is human being. That's the way we want it. We don't want to have like perfect sentences and have the right punctuation in the right places or whatever. To me, that isn't. It is too in a way predictable and in a pattern. And because our brains are trained to detect the unpredictable of the patterns. Because
Mhm.
when you, like I said, when we stare at something so long, you're gonna black out, because
Right.
you need to have the
You gotta break
differences,
the break
right?
the
So
cycle. Yeah.
so our brains is designed to detect differences, to detect the
Right.
things that is anomaly. That's why you are really gonna heighten your emotions when you hear a rattle in the bush, because that's gonna. But you can look at the vast, the field before you. It's peaceful. You go to bed, right? You can just doze off. But when you have something rattle you, I mean, you're going to wake up and you have so much energy, just because we are designed for that. That's what I'm saying is,
Right.
you cannot have these patterns of perfect pitch, perfect, you know, uh, sentences or whatever, without stopping with the right intonations and whatnot. It just isn't fun. I have to make some mistakes in pronouncing it, mispronouncing it, and then, oh yeah, I noticed that.
Right.
I noticed he studied at this place, right? But as long as you can understand, actually that little nuance in what I say makes it more interesting, more engaging, because I'm saying something that is out of the order. But if it's in the order, it's predictable. There's nothing for me to get excited about. It nothing to rattle me out of this relaxed state. Because whenever everything's in place, you become relaxed, because you have
Yeah.
nothing to worry about. But when you
Yeah.
when you are risking your life, because if a lion's in the bush or whatever, that is something you want to pay attention to. So we are designed and conditioned to watch out for these things. So that's why having these things actually makes you a more interesting talker, regardless of what you say,
Right.
because
Exactly.
it's the
I mean,
energy and it's the thing that is not normal to you.
I even when I'm reading this, like, if I were to, if you were to just to read this, luckily I even kind of write in my talking voice, I
Mm-hmm.
write fast. and I write very conversationally. Like I don't really write grammatically probably perfect
because that
or
way
correct.
boring. Because
Right.
it just isn't fun. Because the thing is, your brain shuts down.
Right. I mean, like here, you read my first book, obviously. Like, did you feel like it was me talking to you, like when I was
Yes,
reading?
you're basically taking me into the NICU. Okay, that's why
Right.
it is so engaging, and you describe every single thing that's there, right? And so you basically take somebody in and tell a story. You're telling a
Right.
story of things there, and you paint a picture versus telling me the facts, right? The facts are stuff I don't really care about, right? It's not that I don't want to care. It's just that my brain doesn't care.
Right. And
Even
that's
if I
what
want to, it is not going to listen to me. It's going to say, well, there's nothing new here. There's nothing out of order here. There's nothing worth paying attention to.
agreed. And this is and I'm not trying to like because we're talking about elephants, right? Like, I mean, there's certainly things that I do awful, like awful. I'm not my elephant is not the best active listener. Like, it's an awful active listener.
It's
I'm
all
not saying
about training.
it is, but I don't want it. That's like backhand, right? And I don't want to. I want to paint pictures, and I want to storytell, and I want to help you to understand something. Like that's what I love to do. That's what my elephant loves to do. So it's one of those things where, like, as we're having this conversation right now, like, if I couldn't let my if you just told me just to read this, just read it, it would be awful. I mean, hell, I fucking did that
We started that like that. You start reading this,
right.
and then you remember you were trying recording it.
Yeah, it was awful. I was like, I sounded like a robot. I was like, every time I play a tennis match, I begin the contest by telling myself, relax and just have fun. I say it over and over again, following
I don't
each
think we can last this long.
games.
I mean,
I'm
I wouldn't have gone 222 episodes.
it's impossible. Whereas what I just did, when we were talking about this, I said every time I start to play a tennis match, I start off and I'm like, just relax, have fun, chill out. Like, there's nowhere else you'd rather be. Like, it's a beautiful sunshiny day. You get to challenge yourself. You get to live your values. Like, I mean, like, these are things that for me is effortless because I'm painting a picture and I'm explaining to you how I feel when I was writing these words, right? Like, and like there's a big fucking difference, and this is me just being able to be myself. If you asked me to read what I just said, it would not have been what I just said to you. It would not have come out that way. Like, it just wouldn't have, and you would have been bored out of your mind. Like, like, I would have been like, well, this is me being me. Like, when I can just be myself, talk it out, share with you the thoughts that I'm going through, because I can see it in my head what happens in a match. I can feel it when I walk onto a court, and I literally look at myself and I'm like, Chris, just relax, just have fun. Amelia's over there watching you in the corner. It's a sun. I mean, these are things that I literally say to myself. And then the step two, like, are you gonna do something or not? This is literally what happens every match. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? Get your shit together. Like, I mean, and I'm like, let's go. Push your heart. You can't just sit around and relax all day long. You're in a fucking tennis match. Like, go. Right. Like, and like, I mean, this is I don't know. You're right. There's a huge difference between me saying this to you and me
talking to me.
Talking to you. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
because the thing is, you put character into the words, okay? Because this is what a person do. You bring your character into your behavior, your instinct, and
my hands are everywhere.
your hands, you're talking, and
Right.
you enunciate things, you raise your voice in certain, you lower it in certain, and you emphasize certain places. You bring Chris into the story, right? And so that's what makes it interesting. It isn't the story; it is the character that plays the story. I mean, you can say, you can say exactly the same thing, but if somebody else says it, it's a different experience.
100%.
If somebody else read it and say, well, I mean, someone else tell a story, regardless of if their own story or your story or whatever.
Right.
It's you and I will have a different experience. Right. When we talk to Snow, we have a different experience with him. Right. That's just why it's interesting for when we want to, be this human connection. So nothing can replace the human connection. We are so wired to have the human connections. And especially when we get older, we value this human connection more. Right. That human connection is just that. I mean, it's just basically this person. It's not the story itself. It's like we can talk about nothing. We can talk about
Right.
nothing and have fun
Right.
and have an enjoyable time because it's not about the story. It's about the person. It's
Right.
about how he behaves and how he reacts
Exactly.
to
I mean,
what he say or what I say or the whole story itself. I mean, to me, this is the interesting part, and that's what I'm
exactly.
saying is you gotta be who you are. Don't let people tell you that hey, gotta be this, gotta be that, because that's not you. You cannot perform well if you don't let your elephant. Basically, you're dicking with your elephant. Stop
Yeah,
dicking
yeah.
with your elephant.
Like, yeah, exactly. Don't stop. Like, I mean, I've heard the saying my entire life, especially on athletics. They say it, as people say it all the time. It's like, stop thinking, don't think. And you're like, what are you talking about? Don't think. I can't not think when I'm, like, it's like, don't think. Literally, I this is gonna sound stupid, but like when I talk, I don't think. I mean, I don't think at all. Like, I mean, it's just the words that I'm saying flow out of just flow. Like, I mean, I don't think. I swear to you, like it is not. There's no active thought going on when I'm talking.
It shouldn't, because if you do, it doesn't flow.
Right.
When you're thinking, you basically thinking with elephant. You basically stepping over yourself. You're stepping on your own toes. This is what
Right.
you do when you think, right? So you either have an opinion or you don't, right? You don't understand or you don't. Your subconscious is doing all this processing because
Right.
we have this episode, the whole year of practical learning. We have understanding. We have the ability to remember the different bumper stickers and the words that
Mm-hmm.
the phrases that we remember. Be with Miss Dan,
Right.
ride on an elephant, system one, system two. These things just flows together. This is the paradigm we have, and the system one is doing its job. System two doesn't do any of these things, right? System two is basically delay, and then the thing is, system two may kind of give some hints into the
Well,
I kind of the story in a little bit, but
what
only
System Two told me to do was to read these reflections right before we go on and talk about it,
yes.
because I can trigger my thoughts and remember
You basically you take you system two controls the coordinate. Hey,
right.
take this input in and let the elephant
Just
marinate that and then start talking. Okay, what do I want to talk about today? Well,
right.
and the elephants just start talking and say, hey, this is the value I want to think. And when, like I said, when I first open up this blog, the first thing I see is let the elephant be an elephant. I didn't think about it. I said, well, I
I
like
know what we're
this.
talking about today.
I mean,
Yeah, we're yeah.
this is the emotion you get. An instant say, hey, I like this. It's just really it invoked this emotion. Well, it's not like okay, what does this say? Do I have anything in my arsenal or my toolbox that actually represents some of this? I don't do that because that's system one doing it. If I have to do that, because but system two automatically, hey, for whatever reason, this feels like it calling to me. It feels like this is right along the principle and the belief that I have. It just
I
right away. I mean, I feel like energized and like very very excited to talk about this piece because that's what I'm saying is it's an instinct. It's less than a second for me to
it's
have
blink.
this emotions.
It's a blink. I mean, so like Malcolm Gladwell says in the very beginning of this book, he was like, "You probably chose this book before you even knew you were going to choose this book. You looked at the cover, you saw whatever, you saw my name, maybe you had some
Mm-hmm.
associations with things you've heard from me in the past. You've seen my. I mean, for me, Malcolm Gladwell has a very distinctive cover on every single cover. They all look similar. It's always just
Mm-hmm.
one solid color with like some shapes and dots and whatever. And you have Blink, you have Tipping Point, you have David and Goliath. Like they all talking to strangers. They all kind of look similar when you see it, right? So as soon as I see it, I go, oh, it's a Malcolm Gladwell cover. Oh, it's Malcolm Gladwell. Oh, the power of thinking without thinking. That's a really good topic. And I know immediately.
You
I
don't think. You don't think.
right,
You feel. This is what Bushy say. Don't think. Feel.
exactly. I know exactly what I'm about to feel. The reason why I finished this book in 2 days, is because I knew what I was getting myself into. I was like, oh, I know what Malcolm Gladwell is going to bring me. I know this is going to be something I can't put down. I'm going to be riveted by it. It's going to have, he's a masterful storyteller, like just masterful storyteller of weaving
And
stories on
he
top of
has
stories and stuff.
trained his subconscious to do just that, and
I
that's
know
why
it's
he's good. I
it's
mean,
a
you
it's
look at
it's amazing.
Patrick Mahomes are all these great athletes, right? They don't think, and you say, well, he's able to improvise, really, really impressively. Well, he doesn't have to. He doesn't improvise.
No, that's
His
what he does.
subconscious just does it. I mean,
Right.
how does he know there's somebody chasing him from behind without seeing it? Right?
He doesn't.
He just feel it, and he runs out, and then he just makes a play based on the situation. And if he think about it, he can get sacked. Promise you.
So
This is something that I've seen so many times. People say, you know, you have to kind of like prepare your mind when you're running. Let's say you're a receiver, right? You have to prepare your mind and whatever, and anticipate this. And you do that, you're not gonna do any. Not gonna do anything well in the game. You're going to be like, okay, I guess wrong, because whether the quarterback, let's say your quarterback's in trouble, your instinct is to do something
it's
that
just
you train for.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
if you have to think, right, well, I got to go back, I got to go forward, right? There's no option. But if you do what you are trained to do, then you create opportunity for the quarterback to throw you the ball. Same thing with playing defense, right? You have to go with instinct because
Right.
you have the training. Your training is going to be much faster. It is so much faster than you can. Like I said, when you're catching that glass that's falling off on the top shelf, right? You're doing all sort of things, like hundreds of thousands of things before your rider even get the notification.
Even before they're even in the room, like before, like they're not even there. Like I mean, like this is actually it's funny you mentioned that because it's like this is one of the reasons why I hate stoicism. Not hate stoicism. One of the reasons why I dislike stoicism still,
Disagree?
and I disagree with
Mm-hmm.
stoicism is they put so much emphasis on the rationality side of the writer side of the equation. And I'm not saying that the writer is not an important part of the equation. It
It
definitely is. I
has
mean,
it has its places. That's what
it
I'm
has its
saying is
place, but
different part has to play their
but it's
own
like
positions.
5%. It's like 2%, maybe 1%. I don't even know if it's 1%. It's like maybe it's even a fraction of a percent. You know,
I mean,
of the
you're talking about like like I said, the subconscious doing a thousand things before
right,
the elephant the rider is getting a notification. That's the skill that
right.
I'm telling you. When the subconscious, it is so powerful. I mean, I don't know. I mean, people say it's not powerful because they don't understand how it works, right? But that's what I'm saying is, you can be a master art for at
You,
anything because
you know,
your capacity.
you know how fucking long it took me to figure out how to do this?
About mine.
About a month. It took me about a fucking month for me to figure out how to loop some fucking pieces of yarn together. Like, and the reason I'm bringing that up is like we can learn anything, sure, but like, like we can rational. I could have thought through how to crochet. Well, you probably just do this, then like you take some string and a little needle thing, and it should all be pretty easy. Actually, the girl that the reason why this even became my monthly challenge, because one of my employees, her name's Chelsea, when we had an onsite in New York and at the Salesforce Tower, and we were trying to do something that was like giving back and nice, to like be a good company and have a kind of have a conscience and try to do some good while we're focused on corporate profits and things like that. So I approved her to go buy a bunch of yarn for everybody, and we were going to take the last 2 hours of our onsite that day to try to she was going to teach us how to knit, and we were going to try to all knit a hat for hats for the homeless, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we were gonna try to walk out of that room with like 15 hats to go give to the homeless people that we all made ourselves, and we learned a new skill, and we did it together as a team, and yada yada yada, right? Well, no joke. I mean, nobody got even past like the chain thread in the 2 hours that we were in that room. And she's like, "Oh," she promised us all. She goes, "Oh, I can teach you guys how to do this in 2 hours." And after doing this, now that I get it a month later, oh, I could see how she's like, "Yeah, I could probably teach somebody how to do that in 2 hours." You can't fucking teach somebody how to do crochet in 2 hours, like, and have them like be any level good at it. I mean, maybe if you're like, I don't care. Maybe you do pick it up really, really fast. I don't know. It's fine. But
Regardless,
like,
I think we underestimate how much effort it takes for the subconscious to control the ability for us to move the muscles in our
yes,
fingers, and I think, I mean,
it's hard.
from a logical perspective, there is only certain rules that you do. Like you loop here, you start here and you loop there, and so you
Mhm.
can describe it in like 5 steps. But to master the 5 step, it takes a tremendous
It's a
amount of
month.
coordination.
just to be able to do a shit like a little shit thing like I did, like I mean it's really mind blowing. But now that I know how to do it, I'm like, oh, I could do that now. What I just showed you in probably an hour. I mean, I could probably do what I just showed you in 2 hours. Like pretty easily. I mean, and now I start to see where she's coming from. Where she's like, oh yeah, we should probably be able to make a hat, or at least come pretty damn close to it in like 2 hours. And I'm like.
I mean, unless you know how to crochet before, regardless of whatever you do, it's going to take time. I mean, if anybody in is knows how to do martial arts, right? The movement of martial arts are
Right.
simple, but it takes you years of training for you to instinctively move your hands and feet and movement and all that work in the instant that you're in a fight. Because in a fight, you can't think.
Yeah.
So you have to move. So it's basically secondhand. It's instinct. So you have to make your movement, your training become instinct for you to even do that in the most crucial moment. This is what we call people, what was it, clutch.
Mhm.
In the clutch, right? This is where you let
It's your
your
elephant. It's
elephant
all
do it.
elephant.
It will shine,
Yeah.
right?
It's all elephant. Like you can't.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, like was all elephant. And like he would just that's the Mamba mentality, right? I mean that was the that's what the competitive Buddha was about. Like
Mhm.
it's like you work your ass off to be able to get to the point in time where when it comes to clutch time, like then all of a sudden it's just automatic, and then it's
Right,
just
and you think about like, hey, your last 2 seconds, and you down like by 1 point, and you need to make a basket, right?
right.
This is where the clutch player is able to rise and use elephant to makes those the changeover, the winning shot, because if you have to think about it, well, you don't have enough time because 1 second, 2 second it's very fast.
It's everything. I mean, like Larry Bird used to famously go shoot 500 free throws before school, every single day. He continued on with impeccable training habits around his shooting activities his entire career. He's one of the best shooters of all time in the NBA history. Like he talked about them. They talked about him in Blink a little bit, and they were like when he said when he would be shooting, oftentimes like the entire arena would go quiet. Like, he wouldn't even notice anything else was going on the court. It was just doing what he's done probably a million times, like, and it just becomes like effortless. That was the art of effort without effort. Like he's not trying to do this stuff.
And like I said, this is a very, very simple concept, but very, very powerful. That's what I'm saying is I urge people, young people, to understand this concept and further understand this, because this is all you need. It's all you need, because that's what I'm saying is you got to be who you are. Like I told you before, if I understand what I understand now, right, I would have been an NFL kicker, because I want to be something else I'm not. Because if I had the ability, right, to kick the ball and I practice it to the point where I have an instinct to it, it's nothing. It's effortless. I can do like I'm walking.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with anyone who ever is excel at anything in a sport, in writing. Just like you and me, like you can probably sell almost anything. I can make any apps, regardless of if you have new technology. I can make any apps. I'm that confident, right? And I've been put to the challenge before, and this is the reason why I love to build apps that has never been done before, because I mean it's challenging, but it's not challenging. You know what I mean? And so that's why I think is this is very, very, very important. Your subconscious, your elephant is that powerful, and so if you can harness its power, you can be world class at anything, especially the thing that you love to do, which is, like I say, first of all, figure
That's
out
where you
who
have to
you're
start
supposed
with.
to
Yeah,
be.
right. That's
Supposed
you
to
start
be,
there first,
right? If you're a beaver, then learn how to dam and practice building dams. Don't go and trying to be a lion or an eagle or something else, because you're gonna pay for it. It's going to be miserable for you. You're
Chris
just
Sears cannot
inviting
talk
miserable to
slow.
yourself. Exactly. I mean, you can't be a sloth. It's gonna be it's gonna be so painful.
Right. It would be awful. All right, I think we beat a dead elephant on this one. You get it, dead elephant
Yeah,
versus dead horse. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
get it.
I think we beat the elephant dead. Dead. All right, so but no, this is a fun topic, obvious as always. I'm gonna go to bed because I'm tired. So question that we can leave with everyone is who's in control when you are creating your art? Is it the elephant or the writer? So I hope you learned don't let your writer be in control when you're actually performing your art. I'm
Yes.
totally fine with your writer being 100%, strategically involved when you're practicing your art, but not when you're performing. Leave them the fuck out. Awesome. All right. Well, I will look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, and thanks for joining us.
Yep. Sounds good. Good night, buddy.